Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Back by popular demand is today's guest. Her name is Jill Nussinow, and she's known as the Veggie Queen, but I think she should also be known as the Pressure Cooker Queen because she was pressure cooking before pressure cooking was even cool. She was using the stovetop, which I never learned to use. So she's even pre-Instant Pot. But now, like many of us, she uses her Instant Pot regularly. And she's going to do a fantastic recipe in the Instant Pot. She's going to be making a black lentil curry with a spiced Tricolor quinoa. And I don't know if I'll pronounce this right, Christopher, Cucumber Raita. Please welcome back Jill Nussinow. So nice to see you again.
Well, thank you for having me. And you know, the funny thing is, it was actually you who got me to use the Instant Pot because I was like, why do I need to use this? I know how to use a pressure cooker. And you said, you know, you could go walk your dog and put on the rice and come back and it would be there. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, that's what I love about it, the set it, forget it.
Yeah, it was like you could just do it. So I'm going to do 3 recipes, but 2 are going to be together in the Instant Pot. And I wish I had my second camera set up so you could see in the pot, but I don't because it's a little confusing when you're doing it and I'm doing it, but I'm going to put it together. So I want people to know, and I can tilt this down so people can see more of the pot. Just put it on saute, and I'm going to start adding the ingredients. And this is a super simple recipe. And I'm actually going to make 2/3 of it because I made some the other day and I am leaving on Friday for a trip. So I'm not going to be able to eat all this food and my freezer is stuffed because I do a lot of cooking and get it ready. So I put the onion in, which I diced. It's a very irregular, large dice, and it doesn't matter because it's my food and I'm not sharing it with anyone. And then I'm going to add some garlic, a couple of garlic. And you know, one of the things when somebody says a couple cloves, like one is big and one isn't as big. So you have to judge what you're going to put in. And if you love garlic, put in, you know, whatever you want as far as the garlic. But if you don't love garlic as much, put in a little less. If you can't eat garlic at all, don't put any in. You know, when you're cooking, it's your recipe and you do what you want. And if it doesn't, you know, you want it to taste how you like it. So I have to tell you, I made a recipe the other day. I took a Zoom cooking class just to kind of see what it was all about. And somebody did a recipe for beet, apple, and fennel salad. And I was pretty sure that I don't like fennel, so I wasn't going to eat it. But I made it, and I have to say, it was good. And it may be the only time I've ever said that. And it was raw, so it was really interesting. That I did really think it was okay, but it may have just been that particular fennel. I don't know. Anyway, this is a very cool tool. It's called the garlic twist. It can be used for garlic and ginger and hot peppers. And I'm going to mention hot peppers in a moment. So what the garlic twist does is it minces up the garlic. And people will say, well, why do you use that instead of using a garlic press? And what happens is the garlic twist actually is it where the garlic press crushes it. So I really like this. You can use your knife. And there's, just so you know, there's nothing in my pot other than the onions. Nothing in there at all, and it's fine. So I'm going to add the garlic. And I have a little trick for getting all the garlic out of the twist. And that is you just add a little liquid. And then give it a twist, and it will all come out. Because you don't want your garlic to stick to whatever you have. And if I were to do this with a garlic press, I would end up probably burning the garlic. So I don't want to do that. And I'm also adding this little bit of liquid because, you know, there's nothing in the pot. So I want to make sure that nothing sticks. Now, I usually have saute on low, and this time I have it on high. So I'm going to adjust it. And so that's important for people to know. You can have low, medium, or high saute. I just changed it to low because I'm busy talking and I don't have the bandwidth to pay attention. I have a microplane grater and a piece of organic ginger. And I'm just going to grate the ginger into it. And it's important to know if you're using a microplane, which I have many of them, the stuff comes out on the back, not on the front. So people are like, well, nothing's happening. Well, something's happening, you just can't see it. So it's all here. And you can use as much or as little ginger as you want. Now, hot pepper. So funny. I will just tell you, because this is kind of funny. So I dreamt last night that I forgot to zoom in. And I was like, oh no, it's one of those anxiety dreams. And in the dream, I was going over like about hot pepper for some reason. So I'm just going to share this because it's actually true. When you cut a hot pepper, if you cut it from the bottom to the top, the bottom is the least hot part, the top part is the hottest part. In the Instant Pot and any pressure cooker, when you put hot stuff in, it gets hotter. So you may not want to put in a lot of hot pepper. And the funny thing about the dream was I still don't know if I actually ever did get in, but I was like, you know, I was supposed to do this like half an hour ago. Why am I not there? Anyway, I have a little piece of hot pepper. I'm putting that into my pot rather than cut this one, but always check, because sometimes people say, oh, not hot, but as you go up, it gets hotter and hotter. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's really hot. Now my Instant Pot says hot, not because it's talking about me, but it's talking about the pot. And so the pot is now hot. Somebody in my Instant Pot beginners veg support group said, it said hot, there's something wrong. If it says burn, there's something wrong. But if it says hot, it's just hot. And it's letting you know. I don't always wait till it says hot before I use it. Okay, so I grab my spatulas and I put them here. Okay, so I have in, I want to make sure I have everything in, and this is the part that's really important. After you put your stuff in, you make sure that you put a little liquid in and get all of the burnt parts off, because if you don't, your pot is going to misbehave. And it's going to give you a burn message and it's going to turn off and you're not going to know what happened, especially if you set it and you walk away. You set it and walk away, your pot is going to do nothing and you're going to be like, how did that happen? So I want to talk for a moment about curry powder, because they are all different, and curry is just a blend of spices. And so I'm going to actually add a little extra turmeric, because everyone in the world, it seems, knows that turmeric is a great anti-inflammatory. So I'm going to add some extra. And if you see the color of the curry powder, what you're seeing here is you're seeing the color of turmeric. So adding extra to a dish like this is fine. I added like an extra half a teaspoon. And then curry powder. So this is a very yellow curry powder. And what I have over here is a hotter curry powder, and it's a Vindaloo curry powder. And it is, you can see the color is much more brown. And this tends to be spicier and not based so much on the turmeric. So it's just a blend of spices and you can make your own. So if there's anything in there that you particularly don't like, don't add it. I will also tell you, when you buy curry powder, they're all different. So this particular curry powder that I bought, and I bought the same curry powder for years and years from the shop where I would go, and then they had a different one. And it was hot. This one is a little hotter. And so I've got all of that in there. And let's make sure I get everything in. And then I have my lentils. So I'm going to give you a little lentil education, not at the moment, but I'm going to do 1 cup of lentils, even though the recipe says. So if you see me putting in the wrong amount, it's only because I can. So I'm putting in a cup of lentils, And I'm going to put in a potato because I thought, this dish needs a little more vegetables for me. And so you can add other ingredients. Don't go crazy with the other ingredients because they all require a little liquid and then you're going to change what's happening. And so I'm just putting in one potato, not very big. This is the half of it, so it's pretty small. And I'm going to put in some good sized pieces here because life without potatoes, I mean, what is that? I don't consider it life, but if I had to, probably could. So there's my potato. And then I'm going to add my liquid. So for each cup of lentils, you want to add 1.5 cups of liquid. And I am short. Well, I'm short, but I was short water.
You mentioned you're going away this week. Are you taking your Instant Pot with you?
I am not taking my Instant Pot with me, but I don't travel that much with my Instant Pot unless I'm doing a cooking demo and I have my Instant Pot. And I have to say, the times that I have had my Instant Pot with me have been amazing because I'm like, oh, I could cook whatever I want, which is really good. This pot has a manual function, and I'm going to set this for 6 minutes. This pot has a big dent in it. It's so funny. I got it from my car. I shut the car door and it dented it, and it works fine. Almost every pot I have is dented. Okay, so all of that's in. Let's make sure there's one more thing I want to put in. All right, the one more thing is, and I'll do that after, I'm going to add some black pepper. And then I have to get one more thing, but I'm not going to do it now. Okay, so I'm going to do this really well, make sure everything's good in there. And then I'm going to do the exciting part. I am going to get my rack. My rack is going to go in directly on top of the lentils and potatoes. I have a bowl. In my bowl is going to go my quinoa that I have rinsed. It's just in a fine mesh strainer. I rinsed it, and I'm going to add some things to it. This is where the spice comes in, and I'm only doing half of this because I made quinoa to test this recipe out, and I have a lot of quinoa. I don't need any more. So this little dish, heat-proof, freezer-proof, oven-proof, is going in. This is where the excitement happens. So into this recipe, I am going to add 2 things that aren't on the recipe in the show notes. One is organic minced onion. The other is organic minced garlic, which I use lots of. And so I just have it in a jar. I buy it by the pound. And they're really like my secret ingredient. So now they're not secret anymore. And I highly recommend them. And then I'm going to add spices. So I have cumin seeds. And, we know, because we do this often, that this is the secret to good cooking, is adding the spices to what you're doing. So let's see, I grabbed the cumin instead of grabbing the cumin seeds. So, okay. So I have cumin seeds right here. I'm going to put those in. And I have coriander seeds, which is the seeds of cilantro. And I already turned my Instant Pot on, so it's getting hot in there. So what I like to do with the coriander seeds is I like to crush them. And you can do it with a jar, with a bottle, with your fingers, and put those in. And then I have mustard seeds. And I have a choice with mustard seeds. I can use black mustard seeds, or I can use mustard seeds. Today I'm going to use black. And they do taste a little different. and they're both really good for you. They're in the cruciferous vegetable family. Oh, and I'm a dietitian, so I always forget to say that. So anyway, they're in the cruciferous vegetable family. Really, really good for you. They can grow too. So there's mustard seeds, cardamom. And I want to show you the cardamom, which is a little, okay. Here is the cardamom pod. It's just a little pod, and you break it open, and inside is the most fragrant, amazing thing ever. I won't have that one. Okay, I'm gonna try again because that one vanished.
You know, I always notice that cardamom is one of the most expensive spices when I buy it.
Well, you know, the thing about cardamom that a lot of people don't realize, it is expensive, but you don't use very much. And the other thing is it's not something really that is best to buy ground. It's best to buy it as it is and open the pods and take out the seeds, because it has a lot of volatile oils, and it will, so they're just, sometimes they're black, sometimes they're not. And what happens is when it's ground, those oils dissipate, and then you don't get the flavor of the cardamom. And I love cardamom, and so you can crush this or you can grind it yourself, but I'm just putting the little pods in. And then I have one more thing to put in here that isn't on the recipe. So I put in the onion and garlic in there. Sometimes people just put the whole pod in, but I don't really like the outer shell. And then I soaked some saffron because I thought this would be so beautiful in here. So I soaked some saffron, and I'm going to pour this into my measuring cup because I want to get the right amount of liquid, which in this case, and I'm going to explain it because this is pot and pot cooking, is very important to get the right amount in the thing that's on top. And so I have a half a cup of liquid. I have a half a cup of quinoa. And this is going in. And then this is going right into my pot. And I'm turning it, and I have it on. And that's that. So I want to talk about two things now. I want to talk about lentils, and I want to talk about pot and pot cooking. With lentils, I have a whole lentil show and tell for everybody. With lentils, with pot and pot cooking, the important thing is whatever is on top needs a similar cooking time to what's on the bottom. So the lentils need 6 minutes, the quinoa needs 5 minutes, but I change the amount of liquid for what's hot. There's a lot of steam in there, and that steam will end up making the quinoa too wet if I put the usual amount. The usual amount is 1 1/4 cups for 1 cup of quinoa. So I only put in half a cup, and I'm putting in half a cup. So usually the grain that's on top, if it's a grain on top, I will do a 1-to-1 ratio. If it's something else on top, I will just adjust accordingly. So let's say it was beans on top. Let's say I did the lentils on top and red rice on the bottom. So usually lentils need 1 1/2 cups of liquid minimum. What I would put in is maybe 1 1/4, because you don't want them too wet, because that just overcooks them. So it's an easy thing, but you can't do easily something like lentils on top and brown rice on the bottom, because the brown rice needs 20 to 22 minutes. The lentils only need like 6 minutes. So you're going to end up with overcooked lentils, and then you're going to make veggie burgers. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, it may not be what you want. So that is going. Now I wanted to show you, because people always asking, what is it you use for pot in pot? And so there's a whole variety of things. Anything heat proof works. This actually will work in the 6-quart pot. It's got 3 layers, and the top layer does not have a lid on it. Some of them do have a lid on it, and you can adjust this any way at all. So this could be the beans on the bottom. This could be maybe vegetables. They always seem to get overcooked when doing pot and pot, unless you're doing them really fast. And this could be something else. Honestly, I have never used all three of these things at once. So, and the other thing that I like to do is I like to cook one of the things in the, this is kind of cool because you can pull it right out. I like to cook one of the things in the actual liner, because I find that whatever's cooked in the liner seems to go better than, it cooks better because it's in contact with the liner. So I like to do that because I think it works really well.
There's a question, Jill, about that. Let's see. Melissa says, will you ask Jill if it's the same if you want to the pot and pot with just one item on top of the trivet to make a smaller amount?
Okay, so that's a good question. So let's say you only, like in a 6-quart cooker, it's hard to cook a half a cup of rice because there's just too much surface area. So the reality is, if you want to cook a half a cup, what you would do is you'd put in 1 cup of liquid in the bottom, you'd put in your rack, you'd put in a dish with your half a cup of whatever you're going to cook. And then you probably don't want to add the full amount of liquid, because remember that steam is going fast and it's cooking hard, and that will add a little more liquids, but you have to add time. So if you're, let's say you're doing quinoa, and my usual for quinoa is 5 minutes, you may need 7 minutes plus a natural release, because it takes a little extra time. You have to remember the contact with the pot really makes a difference compared to in a dish. And it's interesting because the glass dishes seem to work different than the metal dishes. So you have to try out the things that you're using. I'm going to show you one of the things I usually use because I like it, but I figured I'd take glass today. It's a little, I mean, I have a whole 3 set of these. It's enameled cast iron. And so I wouldn't use aluminum, but you could use stainless steel, but this works really well because it's like non-stick and so on. But you always want to add a little extra time, and always add a little and generally use a little less water when you're doing pot and pot cooking. So that seems to work well.
And Barbara says, before the end of the show, could you please show your sprouts?
I don't have any sprouts today. Who's wanting sprouts? I have no sprouts today, but I'm doing a DIY bean sprouting class on April 19th and 22nd, but I didn't sprout anything for today. Did I say I was going to? Because that's a little confusing for me, but I have no sprouts sprouted today. And it's funny because this morning I was like, oh, I should sprout, but then I'm like, I'm going away. Why am I going to sprout? So I didn't sprout.
That's okay. I would show mine, but they're clear in the other room. I started sprouting. It's kind of fun.
What are you sprouting, AJ?
Today, alfalfa. I got a kit from Elspeth for my birthday, 3 jars and broccoli and alfalfa seeds. And the broccoli doesn't taste that great for me. I hope I'll learn to love it.
Alfalfa?
The alfalfa tastes great.
Why do you say you don't like the broccoli?
It's kind of strong, and I don't mind bitter things, but it has a funky taste, so I'm getting used to it. But the alfalfa are great.
Yeah, I prefer clover to alfalfa. And the thing is, I am not a huge broccoli sprout fan either. And I don't know what it is. I like it mixed into other sprouts, but I don't really care for it that much on its own. And the whole thing about sprouting is if you're sprouting, let's say mustard, radish, and other cruciferous vegetables, like broccoli sprouts are great, but they're not the only ones. So you want to have a big variety. It's not just one or the other. And so if you don't like the broccoli quite as much, mix them with the alfalfa, and then you'll have a better experience.
Can you mix them together when you're sprouting, even though they sprout at different days?
You can. You may not get the best results ever, but yes, you can. You definitely can. So you might put in let's say, 7/8 alfalfa and 1/8 of broccoli. It should work fine. I mean, I have a sprout mix. I can't remember exactly what's in it, but it has radish and fenugreek, and no, it doesn't have fenugreek. It has clover and and radish and some other, it has spicy things in there. Plus it has the clover. It sprouts fine. It's actually my favorite mix. It comes from Rita at the Sprout House, and it's really good. So let me get my lentils now that I have completely hidden them from myself. And I'm like, okay, where are they? There they are, hiding. So I thought it'd be interesting to show you the variety of lentils, because people are like, lentils, you know, I don't like lentils. Okay, do you not like black lentils? I mean, because those are pretty cool. And I wanted you to know you can use many different lentils in this recipe, but I want you to know which ones are best to use. So what I have here, I know they're hard to see, are crimson lentils. These are whole, oh, excuse me. These are French green lentils, and they're very green, much greener. Let me see if I can tilt this so it can be better seen. That's better. So much greener than the other lentils. You can use those for this recipe. These are crimson, whole crimson lentils, and those can be used. You can use the regular, they're called brown green. They're just like the standard lentils that you have. You can use those or the black. So there's 4 choices of what you can use. And this reminds me to tell you, the darker the color of the fruit or vegetable, the more antioxidants it has. Does that mean that you don't go for the golden lentils because you like them? No, it means just eat the black ones too. So these are golden lentils, and they have no shell, no husk. And these are the red lentils. And I have to say, red lentils are beautiful, and they cause a lot of problems for people. And the gold ones will too, because people are like, well, I made the dish and it turned to mush. Well, you have to remember, if you don't have an outer shell, you're going to turn to mush too. That's why we have skin to get together. But these poor lentils, the red ones and the gold ones, they don't have a skin. They fall apart. And because they fall apart, you know, they turn to mush. And people are like, well, I made the red lentils. They turn to mush. They're supposed to turn to mush. I use them as mush in certain recipes to, like, I have a dish called Creamy Dreamy Zucchini Chowder. And it actually uses the red lentils to thicken it. It's perfect. So my pot is telling me that it's done cooking, which means nothing to me at the moment because I want it to release naturally. And I'm going to just grab my tomato paste. I didn't. I'm going to share a little secret with you. If you take your tomato paste and put it in ice cube trays or containers, put it in your freezer. And, you know, it used to be, I don't know, it took me many years before I realized, like, it was not good to throw away the end of the can of tomato paste. And I switched to using the tubes because it was so much easier. But then I was like, you know, you can freeze this stuff. So then I started taking it, putting it in ice cube trays and freezing it. But I really like these little containers of various sizes, or there's many containers, because that way it's good and you always have it. And I have to say, I use tomato paste a lot. It is, it has a very yummy flavor. It's umami and it works well and it thickens things and it just changes what you do. And it's a very little thing to use. And so I always have it in my freezer ready to go. So sometimes I'll only need 2 tablespoons out of a can, you know, a little can. And so the rest of it goes in the freezer and I always use it. I have been recipe testing for vegan, gluten-free lasagna. And so I've been using so many tomato products. It's kind of crazy. I am finding out a lot about gluten-free noodles and using lots of tomato paste. So I keep replenishing and it's really, I mean, here's what I want to say. Make your life easy by having what you need. I mean, that is the key to doing this well. So I didn't go out and buy these lentils to show them to you. I have them in my pantry. So I have a big choice of lentils. Because for me, when I'm eating basically the same food all the time in different formats, I realized, this is so funny. I realized the other day, lasagna is just pizza in a different format. My husband said to me, I smell pizza. I was like, no, you smell lasagna. And then I thought, oh, it's just pizza. So you can, and I made plenty of lasagna too. So it's just kind of funny. Like they're all just a variation of the same thing. So I'm going to show you how to make the raita. And I want to share something with you. I almost cooked sag, which is greens, cooked Indian greens. I decided not to, but I've been picking a lot of wild weeds, and I've been making what I call wild weed pesto. And I have my freezer too. And I was trying to explain to my Indian yoga teacher what pesto is. And he was like, pesto on pasta? And he didn't get it. I'm like, it's so non-Indian. It's hard to describe to you, because he had seen my Instagram picture of my pesto and he just could not get it. So anyway, this is very Indian. And it's a very simple thing to make. And I want to show you. So the quinoa's in there. It's non-dairy yogurt. I want to talk about the yogurt. So you can make your own yogurt in your Instant Pot. It's very easy. The easiest one to make is soy yogurt. It is 2 things: soy milk, water and beans only, and a starter. And you have a choice of starters. You can use a vegan yogurt starter. You can use of any kind. I use Cultures for Health and Bell and Bella. I use probiotic capsules, or you can use non-dairy yogurt to start. And if you only had, I don't know why you'd have it, but if you only had dairy yogurt, you could use that too. And it's usually 1 to 2 tablespoons per quart. So there's many choices. I have it on my website, thevegiequeen.com, and you can see how to make soy yogurt. It's really simple to do. So let me get the other ingredients. So I'm going to add some diced red onion, and I want to dice it really fine. So let's see, I probably can't get this in there, but I want to dice it really fine, and it's really important. I want to tell you, I have some pieces here from what I've already done. And all of these ends and pieces that I have will, oh, here they are, will go into a container, which I already have in my fridge, so I can make stock. So I save the ends and pieces of various things, not everything, because everything is not worthy of going into stock. And the things that, not that they're not worthy, I mean, they're vegetables, of course they're worthy, but things like eggplant and red pepper and okra, slimy things don't go in. Beets don't go in because they're too red. The mushrooms do go in, carrots, onions, celery, that all goes in there. So you want to be selective about what you put in your stock. And I leave out all the cruciferous vegetables, maybe a piece or 2 here and there, but generally no cruciferous vegetables, because they tend to make stock stinky. And the last thing I want is stinky stock. So I have my,
That sounds like a good name for a product, Jill.
Stinky stock.
Yes, stinky stock. I just want to read a comment. Lanny says, thank you, Jill, for always being there for us on Facebook. And Lori said she learned she never knew she could control the saute heat on the Instant Pot.
Well, you know, this is why I do this, not because I want to show you how great I can cook, but I want you to learn something. Here's my onion, and you can see it's rather small, and that's what I want. And then the other ingredients. Oh, cucumber. Okay, so you want to seed and peel the cucumber, and then I want to put in coriander, cumin, and mustard seeds. So you're hearing something similar. Now, it calls for toasted coriander and cumin. So I have about half a teaspoon, and I'm going to my cumin seeds, whatever it calls for, it doesn't matter. I'm putting in what I'm putting in. And about a quarter teaspoon, and I'm going to turn it on saute. I have this on medium saute. This pot works differently. So they always confuse me. This one, if you push saute, it will go from low to medium to high. This one, you actually have to hit adjust. This is an older pot, this one here. Okay, and then mustard seeds. And you can toast all of this in your Instant Pot before you're doing anything else. So I'm going to put in my mustard seeds. And so I have all that in there. And then I always like to check my recipe. The other thing that I thought of is, and I'm going to peel my cucumber, the other thing I thought of that would be good in there for me. Now, I know that there's cilantro haters in the world, but I would probably chop a little cilantro and put it into that. And this basically is a cooling, you use this to cool off the food. And that's what they do in India, is it's a cooling dish. I was trying to explain to Sujit, my Indian yoga teacher, that that pesto is like a chutney. And he's like, no, it's not like a chutney. I'm like, okay, it's not like a chutney. I get it. But I just couldn't even explain what it was because it made no sense to him, which I totally understand, like it not making any sense. So a simple way to get the seeds out of the cucumber is a spoon. So you just put your spoon in there and you can just get those seeds out. Now, you don't have to seed the cucumber if you don't want to, but generally it just makes it a little bit more watery. You usually take the seeds out. And this is one of the beautiful things about like an English cucumber or a Persian cucumber is have no seeds, which I really love, but this is not really yet cucumber season, but cucumbers are one of the first vegetables that you'll find in the spring. So they could be coming soon to somewhere near you.
Jill, there's a question from Susan. I just ordered some French Vou de Vin curry powder from local spicery. What do I do with it?
I'm not really sure what's in there. You could try it any way that you would use curry powder and see. But the first thing that I suggest you do is taste it and see if it's hot or what kind of flavor it has. But I make a lot of things with curry powder, mostly because the turmeric is so good for you. And I happen to just love the flavors. So I don't know that curry powder. Otherwise, I would for sure answer you.
And she says, what kind of garlic powder did you mention a specific brand?
Okay, I didn't mention a brand. It's not garlic powder. That's the interesting thing. It is minced organic garlic. And I have to say, for years, I didn't use this. Years. I had it and I used it occasionally. And then I moved to where there's not a lot of stuff. And I was like, oh, I should start using this. And now I use it often because it's just minced dried garlic and it's not powder. It's actually like garlic chips almost. See if I can show you so you can see what it is. So it's like pieces. I got a little red onion in there. So, and the onion too. And I get this from a variety of companies, but it's always organic. And this one happens to be from a company called Spice. And they have some good organic spices. So anyway, it's not a brand necessarily. And it's only in this jar because I wanted to fill a jar. And I will tell you, I have had it in a plastic bag forever. And then I was like, oh, I have an extra jar. Let me put it in the jar because I like jars better. And I use it very often. So, oh, this smells so good. So these are now toasty. And people want to know, how do you know it's toasty? Well, sometimes those mustard seeds will start popping and sometimes they won't. So if they don't start popping, the best way to do this is to smell it. Just smell. Does it smell toasty? And my answer is yes, it smells toasty. And sometimes they'll get a little brown. I took a cooking class with Julie Sani, who is known for Indian cooking, and she browned the spices. She says you can get them as dark as you want them. So this goes to the yogurt. So I have in here my red onion, my cucumber, and my spices.
There's a question. Oh, and here's a nice comment from Katie. I love Jill's cookbooks. All of them are great, 4 of them now. And Marcy said, what is the reason for keeping the quinoa separate in the bowl?
Oh, that is a really good question. And thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. Of course, I don't have my books in front of me, but I could. So anyway, this is just yogurt, red onion, the spices, and cucumber. So here's why I keep the quinoa separate in a bowl. And my pressure went down, so I can open this. And now I can do the most remarkable thing. I can pull out my bowl with the quinoa, and then I'll answer your question. I'm going to take my tomato paste, and I'm going to pop it in there, and I'm going to give it I have to tell you, I'm so glad you're not here for lunch because this smells so good. All right, so I just put, because I have frozen tomato paste in there, I kind of want to give it just a moment. And I'm going to just shut that for now. And it came right back up to pressure, even though I have it on venting. I'm going to turn it off. Okay, so the reason that I put this in a separate bowl is so I can have quinoa separately. So maybe I don't want my quinoa with my, maybe I want quinoa for more than just this dish. And you can certainly cook certain things together. I could do the quinoa with the lentils in it. And I have a recipe in one of my books for quinoa with lentils. But here is, because it has the saffron in it, it's yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper to this. And I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper to the curry, because black pepper helps activate the turmeric. And there's no turmeric in here, but I think it will be good. And so I'm not adding any salt, and I have lots of spices. And I have to tell you, that smells so good. So I'm going to just pretend that an elf is getting me a lemon. I'm going to do it myself.
Guys, don't forget to come back at 1 p.m. We have another wonderful cooking demonstration today. It's Tuesdays with Thomas, the first Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. He's using grapefruit vinegar today for all his restaurants. Ruth says, I know this is probably a silly question, but are mustard seeds gluten-free? Why wouldn't they be?
Mustard seeds are definitely gluten-free. They're not contaminated as far as I know. So let me I'm going to give this a squeeze of lemon. And I love my lemon squeezer. It is one of my favorite tools. And here we go.
I'm sorry to ask this. A couple of people came in late and wanted to know about the saute function again, how to control it, if you don't mind repeating it.
So not only will I repeat it, I will show it. I'm going to take this out and put it in a bowl because I think it deserves it.
There's somebody, I don't know, you maybe have heard of her. I don't know, somebody named Fran Costigan watching.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. Of course, she's the famous vegan pastry chef who graced us with her presence yesterday. She said, Jill, my soy yogurt Instant Pot tastes good, but no matter what I use as a starter, I get thickened liquid.
Oh, interesting. Well, I have to say, I don't know why that is. What brand of soy milk is she using? That's maybe important. And how long are you cooking it for? Because I do 12 to 14 minutes, and I almost always have beautiful yogurt. But what I want to tell you, an interesting thing is, and I didn't take it out to show you, I bought Calafia. I always thought it was Calafia, but it's Calafia from a source that I know. And she told me that they make a probiotic liquid. And I have to tell you what happened to me. I actually used the probiotic liquid on top of granola, and it was delicious. So let me show you the, just gonna get a little cilantro here. Let me show you how to do the saute thing. So anyway, here's my black lentil curry, and here's my quinoa. And if I wanted, I could put this all in a plate with the raita, and it would be beautiful. So here's how you do the saute function. Now, 2 different pots. I'll show you both ways because it may work because they all are different. So you tilt my camera down. Here we go. So this is an older duo, and here is how you do it. Saute, there is an adjust button, and you hit it. It goes from low to medium to high. I hope you can see it. And now I'm going to turn it off. This is my other pot, a newer 3-quart duo, and here's the saute button. That's medium, high, low, and you just hit the saute button. They have so many models now that I couldn't possibly tell you each model, but that's 2 ways that you can adjust the saute button, either by pushing saute or by hitting saute and adjust. The same thing I wanted to show you for the pressure on this one. There's low and high pressure. This pressure cook is the button, and this one, let's see. Oh, pressure cook, and this one has a pressure level button, go from low to high. Okay, this one doesn't have that. It's pressure, excuse me, it's it's manual, and then you hit the pressure button. So they're all a little different. So it's pressure, and then it's manual, and then there's the pressure button. Why they keep changing them, I'm not really sure, because when I go from one pot to the other, it just makes me a little crazy. So I wish I could answer that question from Fran. Here's my yogurt that I made yesterday, and it is not super thick, but I can put it on a spoon and it will drip off. But sometimes it's thicker than others. I can't really say why, but you definitely want to get it at least this thick where it will drip off a spoon. If it doesn't do that, I don't know what happened, but it could be your brand of milk. You could try that. I have to say, one of the things that's so good is that the seeds in there are delicious. They just make such a difference in here to put those seeds in. And it kind of echoes the flavor of the quinoa, which also has those seeds in it. So just remember, herbs and spices are like your friend. They're the things that are going to make you healthy and happy, and they're going to make your food taste great. And basically, they're no oil, they're no salt, they're no sugar, and they're tasty. And they have the lowest incidence of Alzheimer's disease in India. And they've been using spices forever. I mean, it's the land of spices. So, there's something to it. And I really would like to encourage you to use lots of herbs and spices. This curry dish does not be hot. You can get yourself a curry powder that doesn't have a lot of heat in it. In fact, I told you I got this hotter curry powder. I had to get another one because this one is a little too hot to use all the time. Oh, and I just remembered I have to take that chili out of the curry because who will bite into it? Me, and that won't be so great. So I welcome any questions. I would love to mention I have a DIY sprout class And I don't have the link for it, but it is on my website, and AJ put the link in there. Registration closes, thank you, AJ, on Thursday, because the class includes a pound of sprouts, 2 half pounds, and it's going to be a bean sprouting class, a focus on beans. So I'm going to be doing it with Rita of the Sprout House. We have a great time. We teach people lots of wonderful stuff. And I thank you for having me. And I hope everybody will consider eating more lentils because they're really good for you. They're one of the oldest foods on earth.
Yeah. Great. If you don't mind, if you have time for just a couple of questions that I'm seeing in the chat.
Absolutely.
Great. Stephanie says, do you occasionally run the sealing ring for the Instant Pot through the dishwasher? And how often do you replace the seal? Because I noticed that one of mine always smells like black bean mushroom chili, no matter what I do.
Okay. So one of the important things is I don't put it in the dishwasher almost ever. I just hand wash it. And this one you can see is like totally discolored. Doesn't smell like, it's tomato sauce maybe. But one of the things that I always do is you can see how I store my lids. My lids stay off the pot. If you store your lid on the pot, you're likely to trap smells in there, and that's really bad. But you can just wash this. This pot, I've used it for many years, and you can see this one is a much nicer color. I have not ever replaced the sealing ring. This one I've had at least 2 years. I have not replaced the sealing ring, and it's hard to say. Some people will be like, I just bought my pot and I already need to replace the ring. So I would say every couple of years you may need to replace it, and it depends how you treat it. So if you spend a little time taking, I have to say I rinse a lot. I don't always take this out. I mean, if I've cooked pasta or oatmeal and it's all gooky, I'll take this out and I'll wash it really well and I'll wash the pot. But I think if you take it in and out a whole lot, it may end up stretching it, and then you may have problems. And I think some people often have problems when they go to put their gasket back in. So like it's fighting me just a little bit here. But I would run away if it's not working because it won't seal. And people are like, well, I put it in upside down. There just has to be a right side up or an upside down. And so anyway, you want to make sure you fit it back in there correctly, whatever that is. So you can try it and see. I have to tell you of a little story that happened to me. I know it never happened to you, but I accidentally flung the lid of my pot on the floor, and I went to cook and it didn't work. And I was like, oh no. And my husband could tell you, I was like flipping out. My pot won't work. What am I going to do? Not like I don't have 3 others, but it was my little one and it's so cute. And I was like, yeah, I need it to work. So I got online. I actually was looking for a new lid. And then I read something like, if something happens, your gasket can get loose, and it had popped away from the thing in there, and that's all I needed to do was fix the gasket, and it was just fine. So the gasket is one of the most important parts of the pot. So take care of it. I don't dishwash it. You can if you want.
Great.
So.
And here, a Fran answered what kind of milk she was using. Hold on, it just jumped up. So she did say exactly. I'll find that in a minute, and then I'll read this comment I saw. Oh, go so fast. Where did it go? Okay. Well, first Gina says, I've heard that making successful yogurt depends on the protein in the soy milk. Some soy milk is 9 grams, some is 12. Only want soybeans and water in the soy milk. And Fran said that she used West soy plain for 14 hours, and you need to come back here.
Tell her I'm coming back and I will help her perfect yogurt. I'd be happy to do that.
And Debbie says, is there a promo code for Jill's sprouting class? And by the way, the information for Jill's sprouting class, as well as the recipes in the show notes, if you look right below the video where you're watching on YouTube. Unfortunately, if you're on Facebook, you can't see anything.
Okay, there is no promo code for the sprouting class. It's just what it is. It's $57.97. And then also, but I do want to tell you, anytime you want to order seeds from Rita at the Sprout House, there is a code, which is Jill Loves Sprouts, and you get 10% off your order. So I think that's very cool. But there's no promo code for the class.
Great. And you know, if you do go visit Fran, you guys should come on the show together and like you could do a whole meal then.
That would be our dream, AJ.
That would be amazing. Well, this was just wonderful. You are just so knowledgeable about this, and you're really the go-to person for pressure cooking. I got to tell you.
Having me, AJ, it's always fun. And now I have lunch and I couldn't be happier.
I know, that's why, you know, when people say, why are you doing shows on holidays? And it's like the chefs love it because then it's like they're making the meal anyway. You know what I mean? So like, I don't ever have a trouble booking Thanksgiving, Christmas, because like, well, I'm cooking anyway. I may as well broadcast. So yes, it's my pleasure always to have you and Fran. So thanks so much, Jill. And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in about 2 hours when we have another wonderful cooking demonstration, the first Tuesday of every month at 2 p.m. We have the owner of California Balsamic, Thomas Allen, doing Tuesdays with Thomas. And today he's featuring grapefruit vinegar. Thanks again, Jill. Enjoy your trip this week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.